This Graham Platner story here in Maine is a big deal. For those of you who don't know, he was the guy that was plucked by a couple of Democrats, socialist strategists, two kids in their very early 31-year-old guy and his fiance came up to Maine and they were like, how can we unseat Susan Collins, a powerful Republican senator from Maine? How can we unseat her and tip the balance back towards the Democrats? And rather brilliantly, although short-sightedly, they found this oyster farmer named Graham Platner. And Jesus, boy, did he resonate. He really resonated until he didn't. So until it backfired on him. After two women told their stories and gave their accounts detailing rape and abuse and cajoling, aggression after drinking, trickery, terrible claims against Graham Platner, he released this statement. This isn't Graham. You saw Graham. This is the statement from the strategist who says these allegations are very serious, and Graham vigorously denies them. They're also coached and coordinated by out-of-state establishment operatives. For a year, opponents of this campaign have thrown everything they can at Graham, calling him a Nazi, a war criminal, and a communist. None of it's been true. And this is no different. It's interesting to me that, you know, whoever's writing on behalf of Graham Platner is talking about out-of-state operatives. Graham Platner was discovered by out-of-state operatives, and you've seen them. Daniel Moraff, who is this, 31-year-old guy who has his own problems, which we're going to get into. He's got big problems with women. He has had terrible allegations against him. He and his fiance took off, never set foot in Maine before in their lives. They're champagne socialists from New York, and they discovered, created this guy, Graham Platner. It's so crazy. Anyway, Daniel Moraff is, talk about privilege. He's the grandson of Toys R Us founder and first president, Seymour Ginsburg. Daniel Moraff is the guy who persuaded Graham Platner that, he could receive the backing of United States Senator Bernie Sanders and raise the millions of dollars needed to win the Senate seat. And Graham Platner's like, I can get Bernie Sanders? Huh? Less than 2 weeks later, Senator Bernie Sanders endorses Graham Platner. Now imagine this. This is all happening so quickly. They find this guy and they say, you can win this thing. You're the voice of the people, and Bernie Sanders will endorse you in 2 weeks' time. Holy shit. And guess what? 2 weeks later, it was Labor Day, 2025, September 1st. Bernie Sanders emails millions of his followers across the country, encouraging them to come and support Graham Platner and give money to him. Holy mackerel. Bernie said, we need senators in Washington who are prepared to take on the billionaire class and fight for the working people. That is why I am proud to endorse Graham Platner for U.S. Senate. And within 1 month, Platner had raised $3.2 million, all with Bernie's backing. Jesus. Now, Daniel Moraff assured Bernie Sanders that, oh, don't worry, Bernie, I have vetted Graham Platner for you. So Bernie thought he was solid. But he skimmed over the problem of Platner's dating history, maybe because Daniel Moraff has a hard time seeing guardrails like that. Daniel Moraff was part of a campaign for Congresswoman Summer Lee in Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh, in 2022. And let's just say he was very problematic for him. Summer Lee's campaign manager started getting complaints, harassment complaints against Daniel Moraff. They began receiving a lot of complaints that he was sexually aggressive with volunteers and activists on the campaign. So Summer Lee a congresswoman, barred Daniel Moraff from her 2022 campaign after a total of 3 different complaints of sexual misconduct came in against him. That's sort of a big deal, right? And this is the guy in charge of vetting the past history of Graham Platner. So you can see maybe this is a blind spot for him. According to one woman who complained of sexual misconduct in Pittsburgh on the Summer League campaign, Daniel doesn't have boundaries with women, nor much of an ethical code. Daniel never committed any acts of sexual misconduct, said a spokesperson for him. If anyone has evidence of criminal conduct, they know where to take it. A police station. Okay, no one's accusing you of assault, just of tremendous creepiness. And there are 3 women doing it. Winning in politics creates enemies, says Daniel's spokesperson. Daniel has always understood that. Here's the thing. No matter what this guy's done, right? I mean, his whole job as a strategist depends on anonymity. He went from behind the scenes, right, to a behind the scenes guy to a 3-car pileup. And the 3 cars are those 3 women. And what irony, like I said, Daniel Moraff, the Dr. Frankenstein, he is that shady sort of out-of-state operative that they were referring to. There's a reporter for a magazine called Payday Reports, which is like a labor union publication. He talks about his interaction with this guy, Daniel Moraff, the Graham Platner, whisperer, the guy who found Graham Platner. He said in September of 2022, this reporter, Mike Elk, says he got a text from Daniel Moraff that said, "Yo, can I ask you a huge favor?" And Mike says, Moraff told me he was recruiting a guy named Brian Peterzak, a General Electric locomotive factory worker and UE member, to run for Congress in Erie, Pennsylvania. And in October of 2020, Peterzak spoke at a Biden rally in Rankin, Pennsylvania, where he blasted Donald Trump at length. "No union member should ever vote for Trump," said this guy, this Peterzak, who's running for office. Daniel Moraff explained at length to the reporter that Peterzak's quote here against Trump could really hurt his chances of appealing to Trump voters in Erie, Pennsylvania, all these factory workers that lived there. So he said, look, I told him deleting a quote as a political favor would really violate my journalistic ethics. But Daniel Moraff insisted that the writer do it anyway. Cajoling me, he said, Moraff told me no one would know that I deleted the quote. I told him that that's not the issue. It was just unethical. So I refused to do it. He told me to forget the conversation and never mention it to anyone. It's important to know Daniel asked me to lie for a candidate that he was recruiting. So this guy's just totally unethical. Look at this dude. My brother ran for governor of Maine, and he had many past comments about Donald Trump. Understandably, no one from his campaign ever picked up the phone and tried to get a journalist to erase them. And by the way, you think you erase it from one publication, you're scrubbing it from the internet? What is this guy, an idiot? Anyway, that's who this guy is. He asked a journalist to lie, to erase a quote from somebody. And he also has 3 complaints of sexual misconduct by 3 different women. And that's the guy who finds Graham Platner, creates Graham Platner like he's some kind of evil producer and like sets him up. And I have to tell you, I mean, there is the evidence against Graham is corroborated, but there's a part of me that sees a guy with a drinking problem. And I'm not saying anything he did was okay with women or alleged to have done is okay. But I see a guy who it seems like booze was present every time. I'm interested in him. I want to talk to him. So I left him a message. I got his cell phone number. It was him on the recording. And I'm taking a trip in a couple of days up that way. So again, I'm going to try and find him.